What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lock and Catch podcast. Bruce, it's been a couple weeks, man. I've missed you. I did a couple solo shows. I know you, but we're out handling other stuff, other important business. But UFC picks were still coming in while you were gone. But now you're back. So what's up? How you been?
Yeah, I mean, we had a mixed couple of weeks in UFC. We had a decent one last week. Poor stoppage, but overall, I've missed you guys. I missed you guys a lot. But you know what I don't miss?
What's that?
Baseball.
Yeah, we got to talk baseball, bro. It's that time of year.
My Knicks are out, and now we're getting some of the worst series in like all of the NBA playoffs.
It's been atrocious. It's been awful.
Yeah. So overall, good, man. I'm happy to be back. We got some.
Sweet.
What do we got today? We got some NBA Finals talks. We got some baseball futures talks.
Baseball futures I'm going to throw at you guys. Yeah, we'll talk a little about the finals first, and then we'll get some UFC picks in at the end. But
one of the worst cards. One of the worst cards of the year, but definitely bottom of the barrel.
Sometimes you got to scrape the bottom to find a little bit of value. I mean, we're doing that in the WNBA recently. Shit, that's we got to do whatever we can.
I'm scraping the bottom of the bottom. We're going to be talking about Josh Quinlan today. So, I say that Josh Quinlan would just take us both on at the same time.
I know. Right. But yeah, I mean, the finals have been. I have my thoughts on them. Maybe I'll tee it up for you first, but they've been pretty much a disappointment. But 3-0 lead for the Celtics right now. I thought this was going to be a way more competitive series than it's been. I guess the big question here is, well, if you've watched the games, you've seen how it's just been incredibly one-sided. I mean, these games really haven't been close. Even Game 3, which was a 21-point game with like 7 minutes left, it ended up getting it down to 3. But even with that crazy comeback, it was never really like a close game that was in jeopardy for Boston. So it's been a pretty disappointing series to watch. I mean, what do you think, in your opinion, here gets the most blame if you're the Mavericks? It's their first time in the finals with this core, with this construction. Jason Kidd as head coach. Doncic is going to get the bulk of the blame here. He's kind of the scapegoat. I mean, that's kind of what comes along with being the best player. But what are your thoughts on how bad Dallas has looked here in the series?
I mean, let's be honest. The team is 2 guys and then a bunch of like pretty just like okay dudes. Yeah. Like that's it. When you look at the Boston lineup, like 1 through 5, just bangers only. Just everybody plays team defense. Everybody can score in spots. You can get the fourth option off the Celtics can drop 30 on any given night, and they play great team defense. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do when Luka Doncic gets fouled out and PJ Washington is like your next man up on scoring? Like, what are you going to do? I don't know. This is like an early like LeBron team for me. This is like when Cleveland was rolling out Sasha Pavlovich, and you're like, oh, LeBron can't go over the hump. It's like, no, he has Sasha Pavlovich. Like, you got to wait until they build out that roster a little bit. I thought it would be more close, but at this point, it's like, I'm not surprised. And Luka's a turnstile right now because he's hurt.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be closer. I really did. One of my futures was over 5.5 games for the series. That's looking dead now, unless we have some kind of miracle. But it's been a really rough series. I think I would agree with everything you said. I think the only thing I'm shocked about, the only thing that surprised me in the series so far is how badly Kidd has been outcoached. Because I don't look at, or maybe I should, but I didn't look at Joe Mazzulla as this like master class of this juggernaut of a head coach. But he's pushed every right button, and every time he's made an adjustment, Kidd has had no answer. And that could be a personnel thing, or just Kidd doesn't have any options. But even last night, I'm watching the game, and Dante Exum gets in for a couple minutes, gets a dunk. I don't know if you saw it. He dunked over, I forget if it was Jaylen Brown, Tatum, one of them, gets a dunk. The crowd gets hyped and everything, and then he benches Exum for the rest of the game. Let the guy cook. Let him do something, right? Instead, you got Tim Hardaway out there. Tim Hardaway hasn't made a shot in like a month. So literally, by the way, I'm not making that up. I saw it on Twitter. The last field goal was May 18th for Tim Hardaway Jr. So yeah, I'm not joking. Yeah, so I don't know. To me, Doncic he will get and does deserve the bulk of the blame, but I think it's going to take a little bit away from how bad the coaching has been. I think it's been pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it because I think if we're talking about the next game, I think I like we're gonna have to talk about what the line is for the next game. But
it's a pick 'em right now.
Luka has he has 2 injuries right now.
Yeah,
and he's averaging I think still like 29 points a game.
He's been great.
So,
yeah,
like he's a liability on defense, but you don't have any other choices. What do you do?
No, you can't do anything about it.
What do you do? Do you bench the 30 points a game? They're going to score 79 points if Luka is not on the court. Like, there's not a next man up. So they're going to eat the series. Like they're not coming back. I mean, obviously, if you look at history, the only people who do it is LeBron James.
Not 3-0. No one's ever done
not 3-0. No,
they did 3-1. Yeah.
3. That's as close as I'm going to get to somebody to even got close. But
that's LeBron James. Like it's like not LeBron anybody. James.
We got an unhealthy Luka Doncic. Like it's not going to happen. Like famous last words. This is like when I was like the debt eraser parlay and it like loses.
Yes, I know.
If anybody can do this, it's me saying that this series is over for them to go to a game 7. Especially in the NBA, but
right, I know, right?
But yeah, it's toast. So like, what's the line for the next game? What are we looking at?
It's a pick 'em right now. It's Dallas -1, I think. So, for me, there's no value. Three of the games have gone under. All 3 games have gone under. Maybe look at the under. The first game, I think it was 216. It's down. It's now 211 for game 4. You can maybe look at the under. The Mavericks have not even gotten. Well, they put up 99 points last night, but overall, they really haven't gotten close to 100 points in the series. They've just been stifled. By that defense. But yeah, I mean, I think Doncic is hurt. You're right. Kyrie Irving expected a little more from him. He hasn't been that great. He had a good game last night, but overall hasn't been that good. They just haven't had a third man up. I think another thing you're noticing in the NBA is kind of like the shift away as LeBron James has gotten older. But we got used to like one guy carrying a team so much. Like you see him do it every single year that you begin to kind of think it's normal when it's not normal. So now you're kind of seeing like who are the last 2 champions now. The Nuggets last year, very balanced. I mean, Jokic is great, but he's not a guy that puts up like 40, 45. He's more like 25, 10, and 10, right? Like he's triple-double machine, but he's got all these guys making shots all around him. And now this year, another very balanced team, a team that has a third or fourth option. So I think you're kind of seeing a league that as these legends are kind of going away, like the Durants, the LeBrons, the Currys, it's getting to this era where there's not a one guy. You need 3, 4 guys to be able to do it. And the Mavericks only have 2. So they can't really. And up until this point, they played teams that didn't have that. Now they finally ran into a team that has all these options and they can't do anything about it.
It's over.
So it's over. Yeah. So congrats to the Celtics. I didn't think they would. An interesting thing about that, the last thing I'll say is Boston is one of these teams where, remember, I don't know if you remember, but last season with the football, right? The Ravens, remember? With every crushing it. And then I said, man, that's going to be a team that's set up for a bounce in the playoffs because everything's going their way. And in baseball, who was it? It was the Braves. Everything going their way, win a ton of games, run away with the division, then get knocked out in the first round. It looked like it was setting up to be that for the Celtics, but it just never stopped. It never bounced the other way on them. So
yeah, I mean, also, can we also just have a moment of silence for the path to the finals for the Celtics?
Yeah,
they played the Miami Heat with 2 of their best players. Well, 2 out of the 3 of their best players out.
Yeah.
Then they played the Cavaliers.
Weak team. Yeah.
Weak team. Then they played the Pacers.
Yep. Halliburton goes down.
For
sure.
And then they play the Mavericks with Luka with 2 leg injuries.
Yeah.
So would they have won the series? Probably.
The
way that it's going. But if you tell me that like you're going to have injuries across the board in the playoffs and the Celtics are just going to walk through everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a
Yeah,
pretty easy run. I'm not gonna lie.
they had, but at the end of the day, a chip is a chip. They can never, no one can really say. I mean, you can try to talk about that, but
Not the
for
Knicks.
for me, if you win it, you win it. That's it.
If it's not the
You
Knicks,
got to
then
beat
I
who's
don't
in
care.
front of you.
It's not the Knicks. It's good.
I do think the Knicks would, if the Knicks were healthy, man, they would have made more noise. The Knicks were a good team.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All
All
right.
right. Well, let's move
We'll
on.
save
Congrats
that
to the
for our
Celtics
next
fans
podcast.
watching. If you cashed a Celtics ticket, I mean, I never saw any value in them because they were pretty much minus the whole the whole second half of the year. But congrats if you cashed that. Baseball. I want to take you to what I know. I know what your favorite division is. You don't love anything more than a Thursday night. Throw on some AL Central divisional games. That's where we're going. We're going to the AL Central. I'm gonna talk about the Guardians, man. The Guardians right now. I don't know if you know this because you haven't been watching a lot of baseball, but 43-23, crushing it right now with first place in the AL Central. But I wanted to talk about kind of finding value on futures, and that division stood out to me a little bit because I'm seeing a team that I think could maybe prematurely be peaking right now, and it kind of reminds me of last season, if you remember. We had made a piece of content that we posted on TikTok and Instagram about the Tampa Bay Rays, and they had started the season. They were like 15-0. So I don't know if you remember that start last year, and they just went on this crazy tear, and they were up by like 12 games. And then I had made a video saying like, hey, the Rays are probably not going to win the AL East. There's crazy value on the Orioles and the Yankees, and then we ended up hitting the Orioles at plus 900 because they came back and won the division. So I think you have a similar, situation this year with Cleveland, because I look at that team and they're definitely for sure I can say number one bullpen in baseball. Good defense, the rotation's okay, it's good, but it's not anything to go crazy about. And that offense I think is overperforming. So I look back to the team that we saw last year, largely the same lineup. Right. And they really had a lot of streaky play, struggled to score runs. They would go multiple games scoreless in a row. But this year, somehow it's all clicked for them. They're scoring a lot of runs, a lot of stolen, like great on the base paths, generating runs. And I just kind of look at that team and I get that feeling that this is a team that's overperforming their metrics. And where can we find value? So I look at a team like Kansas City, right? The Royals are 40-30 after, by the way, losing 106 games last year, the Royals. They're now 40-30 this year. And they're plus 390 to win that division. I think it's a good chunk of value. No way are you going to tell me right now, with the Guardians who have a 5-game lead in that division, they should be minus 180 to win the AL Central. I think that's a crazy number. So I think you got some value on Kansas City here. I would take a sprinkle on them at plus 390.
Opposite takes on the bullpen, though.
Yeah, for sure opposite. Cleveland, number one bullpen in baseball. Cleveland, the best closer in baseball. I don't really even think it's that close. Emmanuel Clase is the best closer in baseball. The Royals are a bottom 10 bullpen. But that is just one of those things where it's like one move, right? Maybe one trade before the deadline. You're going to be in it. You're going to be fighting for a wild card spot in the division. Right. You're only 5 games back. That's one of those things where one move to bolster your bullpen and you could be off and running.
True.
And I like the arms they have in their rotation too. So, with Singer, with Reagans, Alec Marsh today, no-hit the Yankees for 6 innings. I was pulling my hair out because we had the Yankees. they no-hit them for 6 innings. So they got a good rotation. So I feel like, yes, the bullpen is definitely an issue, but you can do something to correct that. So I think maybe a little bit of value on Kansas City. I would honestly also look at the Twins. The Twins are not a team that's going to excite anybody, but they did win this division last year. And they do have a lot of those players returning this year. They're a team that does have good pitching overall, good bullpen, good starting rotation. Their struggles are really at the plate, but it's one of those things where, again, maybe make a move here and there and kind of bolster it. So right now I'm thinking KC plus 390, Minnesota plus 400. Would you take a sprinkle on any? Which one of those do you think is the one that you would take a shot on if you had to pick one of those?
I would go with Kansas City, being only 5 games back, and I think they probably need less pieces to really to get in the race and be in the race. So I would do that. I hate the AL Central with a burning passion.
Well, the Royals also have a better lineup, so I would agree with you there. They got Bobby Witt and they have some good veteran bats there. So. And better, I think the better rotation. So I think the plus 390 is kind of good. And they're one of those teams where I just think that I trust that offense a little bit more than Minnesota. And then even with Cleveland hitting well right now, I don't know. I don't know if that offense can maintain that because they're just hitting so far above what you would expect from that lineup.
And generally, when and I got to look at the numbers for this, but just my baseball history and gut feelings, when it comes to the trade deadline and teams are out, if they're trading for prospects, like the bullpen is usually one of the first to go. Like, they're really trying to get value for those players because it's less of a thing for them going into a long off season when you're out of the playoffs. Like, bullpen is something that you can bolster towards a trade deadline.
For sure.
Where picking up a big bat, harder. Definitely
harder, for sure. Bullpen's the thing that going into the playoffs, I mean, that can make or break your run right there.
Yeah.
You can't have guys coming. You need guys you can trust coming in with a 1-run lead, a 2-run lead late in a playoff game. That's the difference right there from who makes it and who doesn't. So bullpen definitely key. And I just think that those two teams, when you look at this division, haven't played their best baseball yet. But the Guardians right now, I just can't see them getting any better. They seem to me a team that's peaking. Like, I look at the Phillies, and as good as they've been, that it checks out when you look at that team, right? It's like, yeah, they should be this good. They're freaking good. I look at the Guardians, and I'm like, this team might regress at some point. And that's just kind of the way sometimes you have to find value. You have to kind of, believe it or not, we're almost halfway through. They've played about 70 games so far.
Crazy.
So we're almost at the 81 game point, which is the halfway point. So you really got to stop right now if you're betting baseball and kind of say, what teams am I going to buy on in the second half? What teams am I going to sell in the second half? I think Cleveland could be a sell team for the second half of the season. That's just kind of how I look at it. So
at least I don't have to worry about our
I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, well, that's all I got for baseball. We're gonna probably do some more system stuff. I've been working on some baseball systems. We've been taking. I want to do an episode. By the way, this is going to get you excited. I want to do not an episode, a segment, maybe on the next podcast about the -1 run line in baseball.
Oh yes.
I know you just got excited. I know you just you're starting to get like butterflies in your stomach. Right? But people always like money line or -1.5. We started using the -1 now with some decent success, and we're going to keep that up. And I've been really liking it. Gives you that extra cushion in case of the 1-run win. Nobody likes when you have the -1.5 and they win by 1. There's the worst feeling in the world. So that -1, and we'll talk about how you can build it and all that stuff, what the math is and everything like that. So that'll be for next time.
Historically, though, we have not been taking the
What did you say again?
Historically, we have not been taking the -1.
No, this is the first season that I've started to experiment with it. So it's like if I like a favorite, in the past, if the favorite was -180, -170, but I liked it, there's value on it, I just kind of would lay off because I'm like, right. I don't want to lay that juice all the time. And then in the same breath, I'm like, I don't want to lay the 1.5 either because what if they win by 1? That's just the worst. Yeah. The -1 eliminates that because you're like, all right, I like them. There's value. I'm going to lay the 1, and you create that. Not every book has a -1, so you create it by splitting the bet on the run line and the money line, and you work it out so that if they win by 1, you just get back your run line bet. So it ends up being a push if they win by 1. So it's a really neat trick. There's easy run line calculators out there where you plug in the money line price and the run line price, and it tells you what to bet on each one. Perfect, easy. So yeah, we'll talk about it next time. But it's a really neat trick to give yourself just a cushion on these favorites. If you're betting a dog, whatever, I just take dogs on the money line. But when you're betting that favorite, just a little, and even by the way, if the favorite's like -120, right? You could do money line, or you could do the -1, and if they win by 1, you just push. But you can get like plus money on the -1. Right. If it's -120, the -1 will be like plus 115 or something. And that's you get rid of the juice that way. So it's a cool little trick that we'll discuss next time. But I wanted to move on to the fight because I know you have a couple of picks for us that you wanted to break down. And I know you're looking at this first fight here between Douglas Silva Andrade and Miles Johns. Miles Johns a -140 favorite to Andrade as the plus 120 underdog. Tell me who you like in this fight for UFC Fight Night on Saturday.
Boys and girls, if you're here watching,
yes,
the 8% of the following. This is somewhat of a mirror match in like build and approach to fighting, at least recently between these two fighters. Miles Johns, mostly a brawler, has some decent wrestling. Douglas Silva Andrade, mostly brawler, right? Has some Muay Thai mix in there, has some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But these guys, they like to go at it. When we're looking at this fight, there's two cases. If you're looking at the systems, Douglas Silva Andrade, 8 years older than Miles John. So when we look at that, we say, generally 8 years older. There's like a 60% win rate for the younger fighter. But Miles Johns has, they both have quite a bit of tread on those tires. And Douglas Silva probably has like a year left in the tank in his like prime at this weight class.
Yeah.
So I think Douglas Silva Andrade is going to have a lot more pop in his punches. I think he's going to do the more damaging shots. I think neither guy really is very elusive. And Miles Johns in his last couple of fights has had a really weird gas tank. Like he's gotten exhausted in like 2.5 rounds here. So I really do like Douglas Silva Andrade. I think it could end up being a split or unanimous decision here. I'm pretty sure this one's going to go to the cards. I think Douglas is going to have more volume. I think he has more pop in his punches. And I think he also has the opportunity to get the finish if this goes to the floor. So we're going to take Douglas Silva Andrade here as the I forgot. He looks exactly like somebody in one at 145. I'm going to have to pull up the pictures. I don't have it. But they're like babushkas. We like both of them. So we're going to go with Andrade here. I would just lay the money line.
Plus 120.
Yeah, get
plus 120 underdog. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the age. I know you sometimes will look at systems and sometimes you'll just kind of ignore them. And I know for you guys, I know it's heavily on matchups, right? Like it's like if there's a system on your side, great, but you're going to prioritize the matchup over some of these historical systems. And honestly, a lot of these systems just they come and go. Like they'll have spurts, like that 60%. They'll have spurts. And then there'll be like other spurts or there'll be certain fighters that fit the system multiple times, but it doesn't work for them. You know what I mean? Like there'll be older guys that they'll defy the system over and over.
How many wins did we get off what's his name? The heavyweight. Andre Arlovsky.
Yeah, Arlovsky.
We were cashing on Andre Arlovsky.
And he's like that old
42
fart.
years old. Yeah. He's doing He's bouncing around and shit. Boxing? No. We cash those. So Andrade is like hyper athletic. Like his build is crazy. So he's going to be able to stay in there. He has a lot of power in his punches. He has great jiu-jitsu. So if Miles Johns comes in out of shape for this one, like he did 2 fights ago, it's going to get scary because Douglas does not stop. He throws the kitchen sink. Dude's throwing spinning back fists, high kicks. Really powerful. So I think we got that.
Awesome. All right. And I know you have one more. Talk to me about Josh Quinlan versus Adam Fugit. Quinlan is a minus 125 favorite. Fugit plus 105. What do you like in this one?
This is a fight off the Bum Fights DVD collection, volume 7, disc 2. Listen, Josh Quinlan is pretty much figured out at this point. He has a lot of power in his hands. He's not very diverse, and he sort of comes straight at you. And either you're going to be standing there to get hit, or you're going to be moving, and he's going to have a long night, right? And on the other side, Adam Fugit, little known fact, I'm sure our audience knows. Gets knocked down 2.6 times per 15 minutes. So I don't know if you guys have ever been in a fight, but getting knocked down 2.6 times in a fight is like not good. It's like not the place that you want to be. So a lot of power in his hands on Josh Quinlan's side. A lot of not able to absorb strikes on Fugit's side. The only key here is the reach disadvantage for Josh Quinlan. So there's a 5-inch reach disadvantage. Last time Josh Quinlan fought somebody with 5 or more inches on reach, it looked disgusting. And we bet on Quinlan, and we were like, oh, my God, this looked horrible. He pretty much got jabbed up the entire fight. He looked like a goon. He looked like the first person that gets beat up in a Batman movie at the end of the third round. But Fujit is not as elusive. So I think that reach disadvantage kind of goes out the window. So I think Quinlan's also probably on the way out. He's dropped a couple. This is like a fight that he needs to win. He is going to come out swinging, and he is going to close the distance. So I think we're going with Quinlan as a small favorite on this, -120.
So this is kind of like a buy low spot.
It's like a buy low desperation spot. Like he's going to come out.
Who's still favored, by the way, in the fight.
It should be more. It should be more. Like, and then also for the stat nerds in there, he gets knocked down 2.61 times a fight per 15 versus opponents who have a half or more knockdown per 15. So against dudes that have power in their hands, they generally touch him up and put him down. So that's the only correction I want to make there. Against essentially power punchers, he gets crushed. And I think that's going to favor Quinlan a lot in this fight.
Yeah. I mean, reach can only do so much for you, right? Like you can have a reach advantage, but if you're not good at utilizing it, right? If you're going against someone who, even if they might have a reach disadvantage, if they're good at closing the distance and getting close on you, that just entirely negates it, you know?
Yeah. And so, listen, Jeff, if I told you on Monday, if you don't do well at work, you're going to get fired. You're going to come in fired up on Monday.
You're going to come in ready to go. Yeah.
So there's a couple of angles that we like to take. You just had a baby, somebody just died, or your job is on the line. It's that extra fire that you need when you go in there, and you're ready to beat the brakes off somebody. We saw that with Alex Perez, who's headlining. He came in like 3 or 4 fights in a row on his way out of the UFC. He's like, I'm going to beat the brakes off Nicolau. And he knocked him out. It's like there's a certain edge that you need when you go into a cage sometimes that you just don't have. And about to lose your job is definitely one of them.
That's a pretty big
PFL fighting for 25 and 25. So I think this is going to be a fight where Quinlan gets it back on track.
Yeah, that's a pretty big motivator. Yeah, I like that. All right, cool. So Douglas Silva, Andrade, and Josh Quinlan, -125. Those are the 2 UFC picks. The futures, guys, take a look at them. We had the Royals and the Twins. I'll probably have more MLB futures as we go along here throughout the season. Also going to look at some win totals soon. So maybe in an episode, maybe the next one or maybe the one after that, we'll talk second half win totals that I want to either fade or buy on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Got anything else for this week, man? I think we have a short episode this week.
Enjoy the fights.
Enjoy fights.
Some baseball. Enjoy the Celtics winning.
We still have the Stanley Cup Finals. We got that going on. It's 2-0 Panther. We might just get 2 sweeps. We'll see, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of been the NBA and NHL playoffs have been bummers this year. But you know what? Right around the corner, man. One more month is going to go by, and we're going to start talking football futures.
Yes.
And we got to start. We're going to do one thing I want to do is a preview, maybe like a longer pod where we preview for each team and go over their win total. And if we think there's value on the over or under, we'll do it for every team. It'll be a lot of fun. And there's going to be it's coming right. It's coming. It's not that far away.
Aaron Rodgers, I saw you at UFC, so you're probably watching this. Come back to camp.
Come on, man, play.
Come back to camp.
What is more important? What are you
doing? What are you doing right now?
Sure, I don't know. I mean, whatever. What are you gonna do? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Week one, San Francisco, and we're just like fooling around in the off season. that is not a fun week 1.
Fuck are we doing?
All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. Thanks for watching. Peace.